It's La Pista Magica, the Temple of Speed, the Cathedral of Speed, whatever term you want to give it. It is one of the best circuits in Europe and one of the best circuits in the world. It's the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, situated just outside Milan, and it is the venue for the second event of the season of the 2025 VRRC World Touring Car Challenge. It's going to be a fascinating dynamic compared to our last round that we had at Brands Hatch, and it should be plenty of slipstreaming action and high-speed racing all the way from start to finish. Good evening, everybody. It is Scott Woodwiss and Becky Aparicio once again in the commentary box for this event. Becky, great to have you back once again. We go to a very different circuit compared to Brands Hatch, from the sweeps and dips of the old school Brands Hatch to an even more old school circuit, the straight line and high speeds of Monza. This should be quite a different dynamic compared to what we've heard already from practice and qualifying.
Yeah, great to be back for round two. Yeah, Monza, such a great track. It's once you get it pinned and absolutely perfect, it's great to go around, but little slight mistakes, riding curbs too much, and it can be end game. So yeah, really looking forward to this one, and hopefully not quite as much carnage this week compared to last week with our reverse grid, but you never know. We can only wait and see, but I'm looking forward to it all.
Yeah, same here. Monza, one of certainly my favourite circuits out there, just because it is so fast, it is so flowing, and it does have a character all of its own. This is only the second event out of 8 that we're running in this World Touring Car Challenge here in the VRRC. We've already had the opening round at Brands Hatch, our stop in the UK. We've now gone across into continental Europe, which will be there briefly, and we'll come back to it later in the season, because after Monza, we're off to the Gold Coast of Australia and the streets of Surfers Paradise for round number 3 on the old school proper full length street circuit layout for Surfers Paradise, one of my favourite street circuits in the world too, just because of location and how cool it is. Then we go to Europe again, back to Portugal. This time we go to the Portimao and the Algarve circuit on August 6th. The week after that, we then go to another of the greatest circuits in the world, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, kicks off the second half of the season. Then we go to Interlagos, which of course has been in between two lakes. That's in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Then back to Europe again for the penultimate round on the Grand Prix circuit of the Nürburgring in Germany. And we finish with another classic Grand Prix venue, the sweeps and turns of Suzuka in Japan, which will see the series end on September the 3rd. So plenty of action to come throughout the season, but it is Monza that leads us here. Coming to the championship, second race of the event in the championship standings. Who else but Jack Smith at the top of the standings? He didn't win both races at Brands Hatch, because the second one was also taken by Scott Bugner in the end, if I remember correctly, unless I'm being told otherwise. But he heads the standings with 50 points. He is 5 points ahead of a tie for second between Oliver Gibson and Scott Bugner in second and third each. And then it's Jay Warren in fourth, who's not here tonight, but he will be back, I'm sure, next for Surfers Paradise. Lee Piercy fifth in the standings, ahead of Kenny Press in sixth. And it's Chris Blakey 7th, Jack Dickerson 8th, John Jones in 9th, and Sam Walton, who rounds out the top 10. He's actually currently tied in 9th on 17 points each with John Jones in the top 10 standings. And if we scroll through to 11th downwards, Connor Potter will be starting in 11th this round. Rich Hayden is 12th at the moment from Cat Potter in 13th place. Then it's Jamie Page, Nathan Smith, who I don't believe is here tonight, if I remember correctly either, so we're going to miss him as well on that one. Plus, we then have Thomas Potter, who also wasn't present. I think it was his friend Caden that was driving last time at Brands Hatch, which means that he scored half points. And then it's John Wilkie and Andy Carroll, who round out the 18 drivers that are registered for the championship. There's 2 drop rounds from the series as well, so they'll top the true 2 worst results. Then the head-to-head from the last round, we saw it was Jack Smith who won that head-to-head collectively from Oliver Gibson and then Scott Bugner, and he was also handed the driver of the meeting as well. So not really surprised to see that Jack was pretty much on top for most of the weekend, Becky, given how good he was in the World GT Challenge. But it seems as though that form is certainly translating into touring cars, considering there is rear-wheel drive and it is not similar power, but certainly a similar way of driving those things.
Yeah, he definitely seems to have carried that momentum through forward from his last championship win. So yeah, I reckon he's just going to keep going unless somebody can stop him. We have actually heard behind the scenes gossip already that the Audis are looking quite good around this track, so it'll be interesting to see if Jack can obviously put up a fight and keep them at bay.
Yeah, we'll come to where they are in qualifying at the moment in a few minutes' time. But before we do that, it's time to take a closer look at the circuit itself. Of course, Monza circuit, one of the best Grand Prix venues in the world, and it is, as I said, it's situated just outside of Milan. It's basically nested in a little bit of nice parkland around the area as well. But this full Grand Prix circuit, which is 3.6 miles in length, 5.7 kilometers if you like as well, has plenty of long straights, plenty of tight chicanes. It is a very stop-start circuit, but in the best possible way. And I think speed, straight line speed, exits out of corners, and definitely how you work those brakes in the tight braking zones are going to be key things to get a good lap here around this circuit, Becky.
Yeah, especially those curbs, like we've already mentioned a couple of times already. I think they're going to play a big part. Yeah, if you can't get your foot down and get the power down, not enough grip, yeah, you're going to be falling back into the pack. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everybody gets on.
Not wrong with the curves, particularly through the first two chicanes of Retifilia and Roger, and also as you turn into that very fast left, right, left, the S bend that you get at the end of the back section down towards Ascari. That's going to be pretty crucial on top of that as well. Well, to get an idea of what the circuit is like behind the wheel of a touring car, we're going to jump behind the wheel of our hot lap here to give us an idea of what it's like to race one of these cars around the Cathedral of the Speed. Let's head into our hot lap and talk you through a lap of the 3.6 miles of the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza at the wheel of our onboard camera from our hot lap here in this championship. And who else could we take around us for a tour of this circuit than the current championship leader, Jack Smith, in number 15 BMW. He will certainly put his car to the test and see if he can show us the fastest route around this Monza circuit in the touring car. So now the pit straight they come then. It's going to be pretty tricky to see how he finds his braking point here. He hugs the inside line, but lets the car gently drift to the outside line. Now you're spotting your first big braking point here, down towards the Retifilia chicane. Look for the braking markers here. Brakes at around about 125 meters, and then punch down through the gears to around about second gear for the first part of the chicane. This is going to be for revs on the exit, nice and tidy over the curb. You can use the curb on the exit, but not drift off too far, otherwise you start to get pulled across into the gravel. Flat out here through Curva Grande, into sixth gear, in top gear now, hugging all the inside line. Just let the car again gently drift to the outside in it for a moment's time, but you have to get it back to the right hand side for the second big stop. This is the Roger chicane. Brake just beyond the little signboard. And flick left and right. This is the curb usage Becky was talking about, riding over those curbs and using the exit now to get a good run towards the first of the two Lesmo corners. Lesmo 1, which is a slightly more open, longer corner as you turn your way through. Again, careful with your exit, not to run too wide for track limits or running off the road. Slightly tighter second Lesmo, but again, carrying just as much speed. Up over the curb a little bit. Watch your exit also. Again, the grass and the gravel is waiting on the outside if you go too far. Now through the flat-out curve of Seraglio, you're going to go underneath the old school banking, which is where they used to run, of course, Grand Prix and sports car races in the 50s and 60s. And another big stop here as well, Ascari chicane, one of the best parts on this circuit. You punch it down to fourth gear, right over that first curve, hug the inside for the second part, which sets you up for part 3. Again, watch for those sausage curbs and little sort of anti-cut markers on the inside that don't throw your car up in the air and cause you many problems. And now you get to relax a little bit more as you head down towards Parabolica. It has been named after Michele Alboreto in recent years, but I used to call it Parabolica because that's the old school name. Brake it around about just put to about the 75-meter board. Down to fourth gear, again just nice and steady on the throttle, let the car arc out all the way to the edge of the circuit, and then once you've done that, you hug the inside line for the shortest run to the line. And that is a lap with Jack Smith of Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. The lap time that comes up for him is a 1:55.49, and let's see if he can possibly replicate that in qualifying. If he can do that and possibly near in the race, he will be absolutely flying out there today here at Monza. So, with the hot lap complete, we can now switch across to qualifying. Of course, a reminder, of course, that this championship is supporting the fantastic charity Race Against Dementia, which we'll learn a little bit more about in a promo video just before we get to post-qualifying interviews. But as Becky rightfully said, we had some insider info just before the broadcast started, but it is the Audis that have the advantage in terms of pace, and as qualifying gets underway, we haven't had a couple of proper times coming at the moment, but proving that true at the moment, Becky, is Scott Bugner, fastest in the session so far, on a 1:55.430, about 3/10 quicker than Oliver Gibson in the first of the BMWs, and John Jones is up to third. But I think we haven't had any proper lap times coming yet that are representative of some of the drivers, particularly Jack Smith and others that are up there to try and get some pace. But so far, at least initially, that prophecy that we were told before the broadcast started, Becky, is coming true. The Audis seem to have a bit of an advantage here. The key thing is they can ride the curves better than the BMWs. Apparently, these BMWs do not like these Monza curves, so anyone who can get the best out of it whilst trying to make the most out of that is certainly quite a good driver to handle it.
Yeah, they seem to upset the BMWs a little bit more, these curbs. Scott Woodwiss said last week about hopefully being able to ride those curbs in that Audi a little bit more. So he's definitely making the most out of that and getting that advantage on those Beamers as he goes around the track. Although Ollie Gibson has just tops the times at the moment. But like you say, we're just warming up slowly but steadily.
A bit steadily bringing those times in, and the best Bugner's actually improved that time further. He's gone to the 154, so 154.68 puts Scott Bugner on the early provisional pole, but there's still quite a lot of time to go. 8 minutes and 40 seconds left in this session to go. We still haven't had a proper lap time if you look down the order from the likes of from Lee Pearcey, Rich Hayden, Jack Smith, Kenny Press, Jamie Page. They haven't put a proper time in yet, but they will be doing so rather soon. As going down the straight, I think that possibly might be John Wilkie, and I know where the Audis has gone around. I think that we're looking at that is Andy Carroll. So Scott Bugner, I think, is the one that's gone around. I think at the chicane, so he was pushing a little too hard into the first corner, but it is now currently an Audi 1-2. Both of the teammates in the Carbug racing squad put themselves provisionally on the front row of the grid. Bugner, in fact, set a fastest second sector of anybody on that last lap that he just set to put himself on a 154.6. So the Audi's making the most of their advantage. Carroll's now set the fastest first sector of anybody so far on his current lap at the moment. So both the Carbug teammates might well find themselves locking out the front row if they keep up this form for the next roughly 7¾ minutes in this session, Becky.
Yeah, to see Andy Carroll there, even though he missed last week's race due to his birthday, he's getting up to speed fairly quick and putting in a good fight for everybody else.
That'd be crucial, of course, given that he missed the round, that he tries to get as many points as possible, because you can drop 2 rounds from the 8 in this championship, so only the best 6 rounds count. So certainly Andy Carroll, whilst he can use that as one of his drop rounds, the key thing's going to be is that he needs to really make just about every single other round count as much as possible, because it's all well and good missing a round and using it as a drop score, but when you haven't got any more points to fall back on, if he has another rough weekend or even has to miss another one, it means that every single other round he does has to be absolutely critical that he scores as much as possible in order to keep in contention. So even though he might be quite far down in the times at the moment and also in the standings, Becky, he'll have to try and work hard to make sure he doesn't lose too many more points. Otherwise, he can find himself languishing further back than he'd like to be come the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that pressure doesn't get to him. I'm sure it won't, and it will just drive him to go forward and make the most out of every single other race we've got coming up in this series.
Now, speaking of trying to make the most of it, Thomas Potter, who some people were marvelling pre-race as to how much pace he really had, because Thomas Potter has put in a 154.695. He's only 14 thousandths of a second away from the pole position time. So he has currently split the Audis with that time. And Thomas, of course, wasn't present at Brands Hatch last time. He had one of his other racing friends, Caden. The surname escapes me, sadly. But he gets sideways on the exit of the Roger there, so he's getting a little too close for comfort to the edge of the track. But certainly Thomas making the most of being properly back in the car. He's been also having plenty of mileage racing in the official Mini Challenge Esports Series as recently as last night at Croft. So certainly getting lots of mileage in, but he's now got to adapt from a front-wheel drive Mini, Becky, to a rear-wheel drive BMW. The BMW being more powerful, longer, more oversteery. So having that adaptability to go from a front-wheel drive Mini to a rear-wheel drive BMW, that's not something that anyone can do. That has to be someone who can really adapt to these race cars quickly enough to really click back into the driving style, and that really relies on a lot of experience, a lot of concentration and focus, but also a lot of muscle memory as well, knowing that you have to go from front to rear-wheel drive and the different dynamics that are required to handle in order to make the most of it.
Yeah, especially like you say, with the Beamer being a lot more powerful and that rear wheel drive, it needs to be careful not to get its foot down too quick and lose traction and end up spinning out or anything. But it's be interesting to know maybe of how he splits his time, if he's doing it a complete 50-50 or if he's literally just jumping in on the day, doing a few laps in the Beamer or a few laps in the Mini and then swapping and kind of doing day by day, bit by bit. But yeah, be interested to know maybe if we manage to get to speak to him in some of the interviews.
If he stays where he is, we might get a chance to speak to him as early as post-qualifying. Currently still second, as we mentioned, 14 thousandths of a second off the pole position time, set by Scott Bugner. 154.681 is the fastest time of the weekend. Jack Smith has now further split the Audis because he has gone for third fastest. On a 154.983, he's still just about 3/10 off that pole time. Got some work to do to try and get himself a little closer to the pace of the top two. He's not the best of the BMWs. He's got some work to do here, and he always admits there's Jack, that sometimes when he finds a good amount of pace, we always marvel at how quickly he can be in any given car, whether it is the Ferrari in the GT series or the BMW in this championship. He always tends to kind of not really be able to explain how quick he is. When we kind of ask him, how do you pull out a lap like that? His response tends to be, I don't know, really. Just got my foot down and got on with it. So Jack seems to be sometimes a bit quicker than he realises at times, but making the most of the pace he's got underneath him and trying to make the most of the car, despite the fact that this car, as we know, doesn't really like these big curbs here at Monza. So trying to cope with that whilst also getting the most out of it and trying to negate the advantage that the Audis have as much as possible at the front of the field.
Yeah, Jack definitely seems like a very laid-back driver. Doesn't seem to overthink it too much. Just gets behind the wheel and drives, which some of the times is the best thing you can do. Not overdrive it, not overthink anything, and yeah, get the best out of your car.
Looking down the rest of the timing screen, outside the top four, it's still at this point in time in the session with about 3.5 minutes to go, just shy of that. Bugner's still fastest, Potter second quickest, Smith in third, and Carroll is fourth ahead of Oliver Gibson in P5. It's Lee Pearcey down in sixth fastest. Looking at Rich Hayden here, the man behind VRRC, who's in the fully liveried Racing Against Dementia liveried car. Seventh fastest on a 155.592. And then it's 8th for Chris Blakey, 9th for Connor Potter, and 10th for Catherine Potter. So the other two Potters are propping up the bottom end of the top 10. It's good to see them in there. Then it's Jack Dickerson 11th, John Jones in 12th, followed by Jamie Page, John Wilkie. And the only car we haven't seen really set a proper time yet is Kenny Press, who's in the other of the Audis in the field. So no time for Kenny just yet. Not sure if he's had an issue or waiting to the end of the session where the track's maybe a little bit more rubbered in, a bit more cleaner. That's a bit more grip's been laid down. So we'll wait and see if he improves that at all with the little time we have left. As we watch now, this is coming out of Parabolica. Blakey makes his way to the line. He's improved in sector 1 and 2 personally. There's a 155.754, so it's a better time for him personally, but no change in position. He stays 8th, still a couple of tenths away from Hayden, just ahead of him in 7th place. So the session coming to a close now. Last 2 minutes of the session to be run. Just watching here, this is Thomas Potter, who is personal best in sector 1, so he is pushing hard to try and improve that time. He uses all the curb on the exit, will make his way down towards, through the curve of the Straglia, under the canopy of the trees, the shadows as he sweeps his way through. It comes to the end of sector 2, just as he comes towards the Ascari chicane. And let's see if he's on a personal best, or if it's even purple. Goes underneath, hits the timing beam, and it is another personal best, so he is going quicker. And this time, it is a personal best, but whether it's enough to put himself on pole, it's not the absolute time, but it's not unusual to see drivers who don't set the fastest sector of the session, but they hook up fast enough sectors to go quicker collectively across the entire lap than the car that's in front of them in the field. Comes down towards Parabolica, breaks late enough, just turns in nice and neat. It's a smooth arc all the way through the edge of the circuit for Parabolica, brings it straight to the inside to get the shortest possible run to the line. He'll come across the line with one more lap in him because the timer hits 49 seconds as he goes across and lost time in that final sector. He didn't improve on that last lap. No, it's a 154.742, but he was only about roughly, I'd say, 6/10 off the pole position, 6/100ths off the pole position time, Becky. So that's just showing good pace, but also consistent pace. The fact that he can run that strongly in qualifying, if he runs that in the race, he might be one of the drivers to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully be able to pressure. If he doesn't manage to get pole, whoever's ahead of him, he'll be consistently putting in the laps behind to be able to put some pressure on maybe later on in the race, depending obviously how people's tyres play out. But it looks like we are in a bit of a stalemate at the moment. There's a few personal bests being set, but a lot of people seem to have lost a bit of pace here and there. So see if they've got it in them for just one final push if they're on it. But at the end of the session now.
Coming towards it, Oliver Gibson has improved on his time and gone 5th fastest, stayed 5th fastest, going faster again in sector 1. Personally, not the fastest sector of the session, but he's now through the Lesmo corners using all the road and a bit more. He makes his way. No benefit for tow from the cars in front. He's going to make his way down towards Ascari. We'll see where he hits the beam. Timer has already hit 0, so anyone on a lap right now will be allowed to finish it. His way into Ascari underneath the Heineken bridge, and he is down in sector 2. So at the moment, he's not going to improve, and will have to stay on the third row of the grid. But Andy Carroll's going quick. He's fastest in the second sector, just going through Ascari now, so I have to watch out for the second of the Audis. It looks though he's had a bit of an incident, I think, with Rich Hayden, according to our timing screen. So he was on a very quick lap, but it looks like he possibly got into a bit of a tangle with Rich Hayden, it seems, according to the timing screen at least. But if there is anything to do with that, we'll let any steward's decisions come that way, rather than speculate on it. As Andy Carroll stays fourth, but he was on course possibly for a good lap that will push him even higher. But he might rue that, because then Jack Smith on his last lap actually has now gone... No, who's gone to the top? Someone's gone to the top. Oh, Oliver Gibson on his last lap has gone third fastest. He was fast enough in sector 1, and it wasn't personal best in sectors 2 and 3, but Gibson on his last flying lap has put himself into third quickest, so he does actually improve and will start on the second row of the grid. It's going to be an all BMW second row. I think they're teammates, in fact, almost. So Bugner and Potter will be on the front row on pole position, but it is an Audi pole, the first of the season. And exciting enough, we'll see these guys battling down towards turn 1 as we head down towards it. So we can have a chat with our three very shortly, but the qualifying here at Monza, and provisionally Scott Bugner has taken pole for race number 1. So if you stay tuned, we'll have a bit of a explainer as to why we do this, which is to support, I believe, Racing for Dementia. So let's have a quick insight on what they do before we get into the interviews for race number 1 here at Monza for round 2 of VRRC World Touring Cars here on the YouTube. We're back to the other side of this ad break. So, post-qualifying interviews for round 2 of VRRC World Touring Cars is with us, and we'll have the top 3, which we'll go through in reverse order before we get race 1 underway, starting with another lap that came in right at the death of the session that I only just seen happen when he popped into the commentary box. Chris Blakey, third fastest. First of all, excellent lap to put yourself third on a circuit which, as far as we believe, isn't really quite suited to the BMW, particularly those high curbs. So how did you manage that, given that this car isn't really that suited to a circuit like Monza?
Evening, guys. Not a clue. That lap was a lap of the gods. Everything went right. I thought I was going to run out of fuel. I literally crossed the line with 0.0 showing us on the estimated laps left. Yeah, it was just ideal, really. It's the fastest lap I've done all week. I've not had too much chance to practice. I've done a fair bit today, but that's been it. So yeah, really pleased with that. Really pleased.
Good. So you should be. It was an excellent lap, and to pull that out of the bag with not as much testing as you'd like to have had, I think is actually more impressive. Given how compact it can be in the first few corners of a circuit like Monza, particularly the long run down towards the first chicane of the Rettifilo, how are you going to attack this first lap on a circuit like this? Are you going to probably try and get yourself some clear air in the opening couple of positions and try and run away, or if you find yourself in the pack, you're just going to try and survive the first couple of corners, see how the opening few turns play out, and then settle yourself into the rest of the race?
Well, if history is anything to go by from Monza, it's concentrate on that first corner and get through alive. It's going to be very tight. The BMWs are good off the line, slightly better than the Audis, but joys of rear-wheel drive. So I've just got to see what sort of start I make and make it through the first corner. It doesn't help you've got 2 very slow stops for the first 2 corners. The chicane after slow chicane, so they are big stops that everybody's going to be bunched up. It's going to be you just got to be clever about it. It's going to be got to know where you're at. And I've just realised I'm on the outside, so that's going to be even more interesting.
So essentially, keep your nose clean, get a good few turns, and then just see how the race plays out. Is that going to be the strategy, and hopefully come away with a podium at the end of it?
Yeah, I think so. Not try and work the tyres too hard. Just save a bit for at the end of the race, and then just see where the race takes us.
Well, best of luck with third place, and fingers crossed in about 20 minutes of time we're going to be speaking to you in a podium spot. So all the best for that first corner. Hopefully you make it out unscathed. Thanks very much, Chris.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Stuff and Chris Blakey in third place. Now move to the second fastest man. He'll start on the front row of the grid. Excellent effort from Thomas Potter, who puts himself the best of the BMWs in second. As we said, on a circuit that doesn't seem quite suited to the BMWs, but I think the key question is, as some people are asking pre-broadcast as well, Thomas, congratulations on second place, but given this car's not really favoured around this circuit, where do you find all that time to put yourself on the front row of the grid?
Well, that's not even all the time I could have found. I mean, there's definitely a point to him there, but honestly it's just I managed to hit the curbs in the right places, because if you get it even like an inch out of the right place, then you're in a barrier, so it's going to be tricky into the race. But honestly, I've got no clue. I mean, I would have preferred ballast on this one, in all fairness, because it would just settle them over the curbs a bit nicer than it getting chucked about loads.
We were talking about it in the qualifying session, the fact that, of course, you're doing double duty with this and also as well in the mini challenge. I think I'm right in saying as well. And Becky was speculating. I think it was a good speculation, a good question to make. Is that obviously this is two very different cars, the Mini and the BMWs. How do you find the time to split your efforts between testing for the Mini and testing for the BMW to be up to speed in both of those cars? I mean, they're two very different machines that you've got to try and handle, particularly front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive dynamics. How do you manage splitting your time and your practice between both?
Well, I'm in my school holidays right now, so it's my mum set me a criteria: 50 laps every day on each server, and if not, then I've got to do the chores. So it's kind of a win-win. I gotta go on my game and I don't have to do any jobs.
Tell you what, that's a supportive mum and letting you sim race rather than do chores. That's actually quite good. I wish mum had done that. But excellent stuff. So front row of the grid then for race number 1. Obviously, you're going to be trying to head down towards the first couple of chicanes in the front and in the lead. You're going to have the advantage off the line with rear-wheel drive. But how critical is it going to be for you to make it through those first couple of chicanes drama-free and problem-free, so you can then settle into the race and hopefully go on to at least take a podium finish? How critical are you going to be looking at how you tackle those first couple of corners to get out of it unscathed?
Well, starting off with getting off the line, I'm not sure I'll have the advantage because I've never done it in these cars, but we'll give it the best score. And if I'm actually happy I qualified second now, because I've got the inside into turn 1, which is the ideal line, so I'm just going to, pick my line, stick with it, and, try, not ignore the rest behind me, but try not to pay as much attention and focus on the person in front, which is Scott Woodwiss.
Fingers crossed for the start, fingers crossed for the race, and fingers crossed that we'll be talking to you post-race. So well done for second, and we'll see you get on in a few minutes' time.
Thank you.
Great stuff. And we'll quickly rattle through, because I appreciate we've got the start coming up very shortly, with our pole sitter taking the first Audi pole position of the season already is Scott Bugner. Scott, congratulations, pole position for the Audi. On a circuit where it's tended to be these cars are more favoured than the BMW, how satisfying is it to put one over those rear-wheel drive machines and put yourself on pole position for race 1?
Yeah, it feels really good. We've had quite good pace in practice all week, so it's been quite nice. I think the car just suits, like the Ascari chicane and the second chicane, because you can just go over the curbs a little bit more. So it's kind of suited to this track slightly better. So I was hoping to be in the top 3 or 4 anyway. But same as Brands, it's at the front, but we've got the rear wheel drivers behind us, which I should think they'll get a good launch. So it'll be bit interesting going into turn 1.
And of course, for the rest of the race, given you're battling up against quite a lot of BMWs in the mix, obviously how critical is it going to be to get that good start, to get the clean first few corners, to get in front, and to try and impress the advantage that this car has around here over the BMWs? How key is that going to be to try and basically make your mark on this race from the outset?
I think it'll be the same as what it's like in British touring cars. The front wheel drives are slightly more of an advantage in the first sort of 3 or 4, maybe 5 laps. And then I think after that the rear wheel drives will start coming into their own, so I think it'll be, if I lose a couple of places, try and get them back in the first few laps, try and get a bit of a gap, and then see where we end up in the last few laps.
You had some good success last time at Brands Hatch. Hopefully you can replicate that. We'll let you go and get settled with probably about just under 3 minutes to go until the race gets underway. So great stuff to get pole. Best of luck for race 1, and again, hopefully we'll be speaking to you in about 20 minutes time. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Excellent stuff. stuff. So, top 3 interviews done for qualifying as we're heading towards race 1 here at Monza. Interesting comments from the top 3 there, Becky, in terms of their approaches and how they're going to look. And that was a common thing I wanted to ask throughout those questions, which is that start and that run down towards turn 1 is going to be really, really critical. The first 2 chicanes where you've got these big braking zones, particularly when you've got all these cars tightly bunched together in a pack. How key is it going to be for them to, again, be sensible, get through the first few corners unscathed, and just really just settle into that race before the end of the first lap, use the first lap or two to really settle down into a rhythm, and then start pushing on to gain positions once you've managed to get through the melee? Because we hope it doesn't happen, but with a circuit like this and with tight corners like these at the start, they're always prone for an incident or two to happen, which we hope, fingers crossed, doesn't happen on this occasion.
It always gets a little bit tight on the start of races anyway, but especially when you've got a chicane as your first kind of couple of corners, it's always going to get extra tight round there. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, like you say, everybody gets through, but it's that kind of age-old saying of you can't win a race in the first kind of corner, but you can definitely lose one. So it's maybe thinking it goes against the nature of kind of just racing, but some of the times you just have to hold back and think, just get through it cleanly, get the first lap out the way, and then obviously start doing your overtakes and stuff. Don't do anything quite so drastic, maybe the first lap and first couple of corners, get a feel for everybody around you, and then kind of go for it later on.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's a saying which Mark Larkham said once before in a bit of a promo video for Bathurst, which only relates to Bathurst mainly, but I kind of associate it to a lot more stuff, which is if you can't make the judgment call to be a little bit sensible a few hundred meters into the start of what he was applying to their 1,000-kilometer race, don't start the race. Which is essentially, and I think it applies in most races, is that if, given the nature of the circuit in this car, if you can't, you'd be a little bit smarter to just take it steady in the first few corners, because knowing that you can't win it in turn 1, you can never win a race in turn 1, then maybe a bit of a rethink of your strategy and see if you can actually get through it without too many dramas. That should be quite key. Just before the start quickly, row 3 is going to be one to watch for as well too. Jack Smith and Andy Carroll back in row 3. Good pace in qualifying. We know how quick they can be, but getting up through the first few corners is going to be quite key for them to get themselves into that mix for victory, don't you think?
Yeah, see if the balance actually makes any difference to Jack, because last season it didn't seem to do anything to him in the last championship, he raced in. So he always seemed to be able to battle on towards the front, which he's still doing, obviously, this time round. But just with the circuit not necessarily suiting the car as much, it'll be interesting to see if he can make some headway during the first race.
If you can then, race 1 here at Monza for VRRC World Touring Cars is all set to get underway. It's Bugner and Potter on the front row of the grid. It's lights out and we're racing. Cracking start from the 4th row from Rich Hayden. He's picked up 2 places already through the middle of the grid, and now the sprint begins down towards the Resophilia chicane for the first time. They're moving around in positions trying to find racing room. It's going to be Bugner driving down the middle of the row. Looks like it for second place. Let Gibson go down there. So that's Potter, in fact. Potter going for the lead and second place. They'll get through side by side. Keeping my fingers crossed. They've all got through. Fingers crossed. I think hopefully got through without too many issues. I'm seeing a massive crash widths on the timing screen here coming up. That's the Texans system. They appear to have got mostly through unscathed. Down towards the Roger chicane for the first time they'll come. It is Bugner that still leads the way from Potter in second place and Blakey in third, and Potter having a look. Started out, put his nose in there too, and Andy Carroll goes sidling down the inside, and Potter's gone round. Potter's gone around him from second place, and Thomas Potter didn't see on the exit what happened, but maybe a little over-ambitious or just losing the back end. Either way, Potter is down to what's now 7th or 8th position, so dropping down the order. It's now Gibson who's taken up the challenge to go to second place. Into third place is Chris Blakey, so he's maintained place where he started off the grid. 4th is Jack Smith, and up to 5th with a lightning getaway from row 4 is Rich Hayden in the top 5.
Yeah, great start from Rich there. It looked like Andy Carroll bogged down a little bit on the start there, so unfortunately lost a couple of spaces there, and a bit of a tangle towards the back of the grid, but it looks like everybody is still running and making their way around the track. Unlucky for Thomas Potter, as we've just had one of the Audis go a bit wide there.
I think it was either Andy Carroll or Jack Dixon, I think, one of those two, because we've still got Scott Bugner in the race. Looking up the inside for third place, here comes Jack Smith, championship leader, trying to make a move into Parabolica early. And Chris Blakey hasn't really fought too much. He capitulated up the inside. Through into third place goes Jack then. So the end of lap number 1, exiting out of Parabolica. Scott Bugner has held the lead from pole position. So Audi leads, followed by a swarm of BMWs behind him, headed by Oliver Gibson in second place. This is the onboard view from Chris Blakey, is now, or from Jack Smith looking at Chris Blakey as he goes down the outside in the slipstream. Side by side for third place into the Rettifilio. Who's better on the brakes? Looks as though Blakey's more confident to go around the outside, and he's held onto the... Sorry, that's... that is Blakey. That is Blakey up to third place. Blakey holding onto the position. Smith down to fourth. Hayden now under pressure in fifth position from a charging Andy Carroll. But these two tangled in qualifying. As Carroll, I think, went to go around the outside of Hayden and found the BMW on the apex. And so the two simply went for the same piece of road and they came together. And it's a braking duel into the Roger chicane. And they just about get through unscathed with Carroll taking the position. So Carroll's up into the top 5. Just saw there too as well. Jack Smith was making a move from the aerial view into Lesmo 1. And he's going for it. Up the inside. He just edges Blakey out to the edge of the track wide. Carroll trying to get in here. They're still will to will in towards the second Lesmo. Blakey back around the outside. This is steadfast defence from Chris Blakey here, Becky. He's simply saying, if you want to get past me, do it the right way, because I ain't giving this third place up easy.
Yeah, he's definitely making it a bit more of a challenge, and now it looks like Jack Smith has lost a position to Andy Carroll as well with all that battling. Wasn't maybe quite paying attention to what was happening behind, and Andy's just been storming his way through and yeah, managed to pick up a place there.
And he is, and making the most of the curbs, which these Audis seem to favour more than the BMWs. Pat makes his way out to the Ascari chicane, down the back straight towards Parabolica for the second time. Still with Bugner in control, Gibson trying to give chase. The top just starting to break away a little bit now that that fight for third has been developing between the 3 cars in shot that you see here, which is Blakey, Carroll and Smith. Now they turn onto the pit straight once again, out of Parabolica, and this time it's Smith who's in the driving seat here. He was the one under threat in position last time from Chris Blakey. Now he's in the tow. Andy Carroll trying to take 4th position back. But the championship leader not necessarily on the same pace that he had back at Brands Hatch, and not really the same place he had in the GT Championship, but he goes diving into the first chicane. That Carroll's a little wiser on the inside line. You see the BMWs don't really have the ability to turn a little bit tighter. It's usually on corner entry that front-wheel drive cars have a little more grip and turning and bite as they try to turn their way through. Whereas the BMWs have to rely on the rear of the car to kind of help them rotate a bit, whereas the front-wheel drive cars have a bit more punch through the initial turn and off the corners sometimes. Side by side for position. Carroll again going wheel to wheel with the BMW, and this time he holds the place and denies Jack Smith the move, and now he's under more pressure again from the cars behind, because that now puts him under threat from Jack Smith and a resurgent Thomas Potter. He's the car right at the back of this group in the far right of the screen. There he is at the back. Jack Smith, after really strong pace in the first round, whether it's the ballast or just the BMW not suited to Monza or a combination of those two and other factors, but not the same pace we're used to seeing Jack here in this field. He's having to really battle for his place just in the top 5 to stay where he is.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a change of scenery for him, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he makes out of it, if he can get any further up the road, or if it's just going to be a case of just making the most out of where he is, hold a position, trying to keep Rich and Tom behind, who are Tom's looking very feisty here, looking like he wants to make a move on Rich Hayden as he's coming up round to the Parabolica. See if he'll sweep around the outside.
Was one of the fastest drivers in qualifying. He was on the front row of the grid, but after the spin he had up at the Roger chicane, he's now battling his way back through the order and tries to take the tighter run, exiting the long arcing right-hander, but Hayden was wise to it, moved to the inside, and now he's forced Potter to go to the outside. He might get a side draft here as he pulls himself tight alongside Hayden's BMW. They'll be wheel-to-wheel down towards the Rettifilio chicane. It's going to be last of the late breakers here. Hayden has track position, but you can go down around the outside if you're confident enough to do so. And with that better track position, Hayden holds the place as they turn through Rettifilio now at the start of lap 4. So 3 laps completed. And Scott Bugner out in front whilst we watch this is setting... His last lap was pretty much the fastest lap of the race, 155.114. Blakey set the fastest first sector as well, so he had some clear air in third place chasing after Oliver Gibson. There is Blakey. Out of the first sector they go. And he is the faster of the 3 cars in that top 3, but faster than all of them in Sector 1 is Andy Carroll. So once again, Becky showing that the Audis have the pace in terms of being better around this circuit, but the BMWs in the right hands are holding their own at the front of the field here.
Yeah, just maybe a little bit more grunt in them, a bit more, once they can get that power down, a bit more speed maybe on some of the straights and the longer sort of areas of the track rather than the tight turns where the Audis might be making up a bit more time, or obviously riding over the curbs a little bit easier. So it'll be interesting to see if that keeps playing out the way. It's always interesting to see who prefers to take like the inside line on a chicane, thinking, well, yeah, it gives me the inside line on this part of it, but the next part they're going to have the advantage. So weighing it up to know which is going to benefit them better and make sure they keep that position at the end of the move.
Hayden then doing a fine job to defend from Potter here, who I'm sure is getting a little frustrated being caught up behind him, but it's legitimate pace, so Potter has to try and get around him the hard way, which is to find a route through, particularly in the slipstream here, down out of Parabolica and onto that long, never-ending main straight, the infamous main straight where these cars, particularly in some of the faster cars like sports cars or F1, will be reaching speeds of up to 200 miles an hour. Not quite going that fast today. Certainly, it will feel just as fast as one of these touring cars. Huge braking stop here. That's going to be a key thing in these races, is how much you use the brakes. And of course, you don't overheat them too much and use them up too much in this scenario. And Andy Carroll is coasted in 4th place. He was the fastest in the 1st sector. It was a personal best at 2nd sector, and didn't quite match the pace in sector 3. So he's got some work to do to try and keep closing the gap. He's got 4/10 of a gap or so on the trap in front, which is Chris Blakey trying to keep up with Oliver Gibson. He's getting closer as he turns in towards Lesmo 1. So it looks like possibly here, as his brakes are glowing red as he turns in through Lesmo 1, that Andy Carroll's the man on the move here. He's got his possible sights here on a 3rd place to make it an Audi 1-3, but he won't manage it going wide like that. So I kind of spoke too soon, but him running wide there shows at least Becky he's pushing. He's trying hard to get that 3rd place.
Yeah, he's definitely wanting to try to catch with the drivers up ahead, maybe even join his teammate Scott on the front row. So he's pushing, trying to catch up. See if he can manage to get round Chris, especially coming up to the chicanes. Make a bit more time maybe on like we keep saying, riding on those curbs, maybe just being able to cut that corner just a little bit more, get the power down a bit earlier, and close that gap even more.
Interesting enough, in the sectors in the top 2, Bugner was better in the 1st sector by 3/10, but Gibson's pulled that time back in the 2nd sector. He was about coming towards 3.5 and 4/10 better. So in actual fact, on this lap so far, Gibson has gained a 1/10 of a second back on the lead as they come across the line. The gap across the stripe with 5 laps completed is about 6/10 of a second between the top 2 as they come across the line, but only just about hitting half distance. 20-minute race, whereas it's now 10 minutes now, so we've now gone past into the second half of the race. It's going to be pretty critical, particularly now, Becky, when these drivers have started to settle into their rhythm, find out where they're going to be pace-wise in this race, and then start to push forwards and find a few more gains here or there per lap. The likes of Gibson chasing after the lead and Andy Carroll going after 3rd place on Blakey, these guys are going to have to try and make those moves. They're going to have to do it, I'm sure, soon, within the next possible 2 or 3 laps to really make their mark here. Otherwise, they might be stuck towards the last lap of the race and find it's too little too late to try and get past them when they could have had an opportunity about 2 or 3 times ago. As just behind them, that was Rich Hayden and Thomas Potter reacquainting themselves with each other in towards the 2nd chicane. And it looks like, I think there, Becky, that Thomas just about pulled out that move in the last minute for Rich and saved them both having a rather slightly embarrassing incident at the 2nd chicane.
Yeah, didn't quite see the whole move unfold, but it looked like maybe just a little over optimistic there from Thomas Potter, and made the right call to try to get out of it as soon as he could to not cause any real damage. As we've got Andy Carroll trying to make a move on Chris Blakey, nicely done round. So we're coming out with a Ascari.
Yeah, that was a smooth move round the outside into Ascari, and that now puts the 2nd Audi into 3rd place. So Audi's 1 and 3 on the podium now with 8 3/4 minutes to go. Now towards Parabolica they come again. The gap has stayed pretty static at about 6/10 of a second between Bugner and Gibson, but Carroll is the one on the move. He sets the fastest 1st sector of the entire race in this lap alone. He did lose time in the 2nd sector, but he's still quicker just than Bugner in front, and quicker by 2/10 than Gibson. So Andy Carroll is the one to watch here. He's still got plenty of time to catch them. Under 8.5 minutes, he comes across the line, sets a new personal best, and he is at least half a second quicker than the top 2 in front. And Chris Blakey was off by 1.2 seconds. Andy Carroll is proving not only is the Audi quick, but so is he in this race so far, Becky. I wouldn't even put it past him. He challenges for the lead within the next couple of laps if he keeps it clean and tidy. and cruises up to the back of the top two. And he might even be helped further if both Bugner and Gibson start fighting for the lead if they come together.
Yeah, I reckon Scott might be willing on his teammate to obviously catch up, put some pressure on Ollie Gibson, but I wonder how much of that will then fade if he does manage to take Ollie Gibson
Yes.
and then is a threat to himself and be like, actually hold back a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out as Thomas has made another good sort of close up gap onto Rich, so we'll see if he can get the move done now.
He tried, but Rich moved once to defend, then moved back to the racing line, which he's allowed to do. You're allowed to do that in terms of defending your position. So that's not a problem at all. Thomas might be getting a little frustrated, but that's only just because he purely wants to get past, and he knows that after starting on the front row of the grid, he does have enough pace. We did have enough pace, at least in qualifying, to be one of the fastest drivers out there. He'll hope that with the reverse grid that comes up for race 2, that he can make the most of that and pick his way through, because that will certainly put him in a good position. Ironically, the further back he finishes, the better place he'll be in for race 2 up the front, particularly ahead of the cars which are finishing him in front of him in this first race. Gets a good run exiting out of Ascari, but did a bit of a switchback as Hayden didn't get the best exit he wanted out of the Ascari chicanes through the S's and down towards Parabolica. Now, can he break that little bit later down towards Parabolica? The answer is yes. Moves across. Hayden tries to come back at him, and a little wiggle there from Potter trying to get under brakes. So Hayden's not quite done, but he has to try and sit back into the slipstream. So the pass is done for the moment, Becky. But I wonder, with roughly round about, 6 and 3.5 minutes to go, just under, I don't think Rich is finished with Thomas yet.
Oh no, definitely not. I think that was more of an unfortunate error made by Rich going a little bit wide out of one of the corners, which enabled Thomas Potter to manage to catch up and get past him. And yeah, Rich not being able to defend as he's already back past, or did we have a little bit of a tangle there? By the way, both cars seemed to go a little bit off track a little bit there and off the race line. So I wonder if there was a little bit of contact there again. But I'm sure Rich will be back onto the bumper again and try to get his place back.
We're trying hard. Make their way back into the Roger chicane again. This is Blakey pushing on, but smoke being popped up there from the fact that certainly Bugner is Carroll pushing hard. And he hasn't really made the inroads on the top two that I expected he would, given his last lap was a 1:55.098. He was only about roughly half a tenth quicker than Bugner, and he was half a second quicker than the Gibson last lap, but still the gap between them was still 1.1 seconds, so it's not impossible that he'll catch second place. But given that Carroll's pace has been quite strong in the last couple of laps, particularly when he's been battling other cars, in fact, possibly getting a bit of a benefit from the tow the car in front's been giving him, can you keep using that better ability to ride the curves in the Audi and the slightly better handling and turning for this Audi, he might well start to get closer to him quicker and quicker as we head into the final 5 minutes of this race.
Yeah, he's not, not, as you say, not quite closed that gap, but I suppose it might be as well. Ollie Gibson's managing to make that BMW ride those curbs how he wants to and get the power down where he needs to keep that gap where it is and maintain his position, as we've got Jack Smith closing up to Chris Blakely now as well.
Big twitch of oversteer through Parabolica though. He's getting a little loose as he put the power on, which is one of the down points of these BMWs. They're great with rear-wheel drive to help rotate the car, but sometimes if you get up the power just a little too quickly or a little too much, a little too prematurely, then that can start to twitch the rear end, particularly in a fast corner like that. He wasn't helped either by the fact that Chris Blakey just had the fastest final sector of the race as well to try and close back in on Carroll. Finding their way right on board with Jack Smith out of the Retifilia chicane. Now they head towards the Rogier via the Curva Grande. Just into the last 4 minutes of this first race of the event, round 2 of VRRC World Touring Cars here live on YouTube, as they come back into the Roger chicane for what's now the 9th time of asking in this race. Still Bugner with a lead now of about 0.8 per second, about roughly 0.8 a second or so it's hovering around that. Carroll meanwhile last lap, how much quicker was he? He was quickest of the top 3, but he was only about a tenth faster. And it's hotting up again between Blakey and Smith because he's now right on his tail back through the second Lesmo. I don't think these battles here they're far from done to go into these last couple of minutes. I think we could see one or two quite banzai moves here as they get pretty close. As Jack Smith closes in, looks for the move, does the dummy on the inside line, and Blakey tried to throw the block, but he's too late. He has to give Smith the room. Side by side into Ascari. Smith breaks later, turns it over the curb, and gets a little too crossed up. He's onto the grass, onto the gravel. So all the hard work he did has put gone for nothing for Jack Smith. Back down to 5th. He's lost several car lengths. Good attempt, Becky, but didn't quite make it work for the championship leader.
Yeah, like you say, we're running out of laps, so it's those last-minute sort of calls as well. We've got Andy Carroll going for a move on Ollie Gibson as well, realising his time's slowly running out, so he's got to make the move sooner rather than later to get those positions.
Really going for it. He's got a good run through Parabolica. He'll get the side draft from Gibson if he stays close. It was the fastest second sector of the race for Andy Carroll last time by. There's a 54.802, and it is the fastest lap of the race as far as I can see. No, 54.7 for Thomas Potter so far. No, yes, Thomas Potter has the fastest lap of the race so far. But it's now Carroll trying to defend. He goes all over the curb on the first part of the Resifilia chicane. Tries to get better traction on the exit, which you think the BMW would win that, being rear-wheel drive. But the front-wheel drive pull of the Audi brings himself level, going through Curva Grande, round the outside. Is it going to be an Audi 1-2 by the time they get to the Roger chicane? I think it is. And Carroll does slot in front. So Audi's then first and second into the final 2 minutes of this race. And it is now at the moment Scott Bugner. I think he's possibly away and gone here. I can't really see Carroll closing up to him unless he puts in a banzai couple of laps here to close the gap and Scott starts making mistakes. But critically, Audi's to the front then, and Gibson's trying to uphold BMW honours in third. But I think given Carroll's pace in the last few laps in this race, Becky, he might well be again too little too late here. I think that Gibson, unless he pulls something out of the bag, might just have to watch that Audi drive away from him as he goes to chase his teammate.
Yeah, I don't think Gibson's going to make it easy for him, and he's not going to let him disappear off into the distance quite yet. I think he's going to keep battling right till the last minute. So we'll, see if he does manage to either get it back or just, keep the pressure on and just keep him within eyesight.
Heading on to the last lap of this first race, shortly when they cross the line, here's the view back from Andy Carroll, watching Oliver Gibson's BMW that hasn't disappeared yet. He's still in contention. As they come towards this final lap of the race, the clock has ticked into the last minute of the race now. The clock timer shows 55 seconds left to go. Into Parabolica. Slightly tighter run through from Gibson, lets it drift out wide. He's got a good hitch onto the slipstream. And Blakey has disappeared. He's in fourth, quite a clear fourth position. And Jack Smith is there, but he's not close enough to make a challenge. Down the pit straight to start the last lap of the race. Bugner out in front has a gap of 2.2 seconds at this point in time as they come down towards the Resifilia for the final time. And Carroll's now the one defending from Gibson, and he gets the better track, the switch back, or it seems as though, on corner exit initially. Now they make the charge towards Curva Grande again, and once more that Audi has a bit better punch off the corner, it seems, surprisingly, compared to the rear-wheel drive BMW. Into the Roger for the last time, and it looks as though that Bugner has this race pretty much under control. And last time in fact Carroll was half a second slower, so it looks as though initially it's going to be an Audi victory. Whether it's a 1-2, Becky, still to be decided with half a lap to go.
Yeah, Carroll's had a bit too much on his plate to think about going after his teammate with Gibson right in his rear view mirrors. It's not giving him a breather, is he? So he's having to drive defensively, make sure he's not going to let him through and lose that second place on the last sort of corner that it will probably could end up being if he doesn't position his car where it needs to be.
He's got a few more corners to defend as Scott Bugner turns his way in towards Ascari for the final time. It looks as though there's about a car length now between Carroll and Gibson, so I think it could be him done and dusted. Blakey's still pushing on in fourth, and Jack Smith's still there back in the background in fifth position, and he's got Thomas Potter bearing him down as well. But he's going to run out of time. We'll have to settle for sixth position. Rich Hayden's there at the top of the shot, back in seventh. Down towards Parabolica for the final time. There'll be a late challenge, I'm sure, from Gibson for second place, but as they turn through a long right-hander, the BMWs are in control at Brands Hatch for the most part, but now here at Monza in Italy, at least in race one, the Audis strike back, and it's a victory for Scott Bugner in race one of the evening in VRRC touring cars here at Monza, and it's a 1-2 for the team as well, as Andy Carroll charges his way through from the third row of the grid to take himself a well-earned second place. Oliver Gibson takes third ahead of Chris Blakey in fourth. Another excellent drive for Chris in the BMW. Jack Smith has to settle for fifth. Thomas Potter, what could have been for him after he had that spin on the opening couple of laps, exiting the Roger chicane and finishes up in sixth position ahead of Rich Hayden in seventh. And it's Jack Dickerson in the third of those Audis in eighth. Lee Piercy in ninth, in battling with Catherine Potter, and it's going to be Piercy, I think, ahead of Potter, with 11th place going to Jamie Page. 12th going to John Jones, and then we've got Connor Potter, John Wilkie running off the last of the finishes at the flag in a few moments' time. But yeah, only Connor Potter and John Wilkie are the last ones left to go. So race 1 is complete, and it's a double podium and a victory for championship for the Audis, with Scott Bugner and Andy Carroll putting in a successful run in this first race. We're going to step away for just a moment to have another advert for one of our sponsors, and once we've done that, we'll have a chat to our top 3 from race 1 here at Monza. It's a double podium for Audi and a victory for Scott Bugner. See if you can replicate that in race 2. Race 1 complete at Monza for the VRRC World Touring Car Challenge, and we've got our top 3 from that race in with us in the interview room here to have a chat with them. First of all, we'll start with the man in 3rd place, and he was best of the BMWs in this race. That was Oliver Gibson. Oliver, congratulations on a hard-fought 3rd place. Obviously, a bit of battling towards the end with Andy Carroll for 2nd, but at least at the very least, you got to uphold BMW honour and be best of the Bavarian cars on the podium. So, talk us through the race and how you found it battling the final couple of stages with Andy for 2nd place.
Yeah, that was a tricky one. I couldn't believe I was not 2nd place. I was obviously very lucky at the start. Incident in front, just managed to get a few places there, but after that I was surprised at the pace I had, keeping up there or thereabouts with Scott, so that was a positive to take. And then I don't know if you saw, but on the 3rd to last lap I had this massive slide through Ascari, and it's like I couldn't believe I held it, and then Andy came past and it was like, well, that was coming. So but yeah, I'm delighted with the 3rd because I really didn't think I was going to be top 5 tonight, so always a positive, and I'll hope to do it again in the 2nd.
Of course, we've talked a lot about how the fact the Audis have a bit more strength around this circuit than the BMWs. I mean, how did you find the car over those 20 minutes and battling with the likes of initially chasing after Scott and having Andy alongside you? Did you feel as though there were some points where the BMW did have 1 or 2 strengths that you could keep up with them?
Under braking, definitely. I thought there was a few. I think turn 1 was the big one, but yeah, it's just the Audi can take curbs, like it just eats it. I can't believe it. I was driving behind it and I was like, fair enough, I can't compete with that. So that's where the Audi's better than the BMW. But I think under braking there's a little bit of a more lean towards the BMW, but it's pretty close. It's just curbs, I can't do them.
You'll have plenty of chance to practice in race 2 coming up. Of course, it's a fully reversed grid, so you'll be starting quite deep in the field. Do you think that's going to be easier for you going into turn 1, knowing how much of a melee it can be sometimes in motorsport in a corner sequence like that, given it's quite tight? Do you think you'd be in a better position being sitting back and just letting the first few corners play out and let everyone settle in?
Yeah, I think at Monza it's best to be either at the front or the back. If you're in the midfield, it's always a bit risky. So yeah, at the back, probably better for the 2nd race. If there's a few incidents, hopefully I can sneak my way through, a bit like Brands last week on that start. Just managed to get lucky and pick the right gaps to go through and end up somewhere decent through the end. Just as long as I get no damage, I'm happy, because damage around here would be probably pretty bad because more drag, and so you'll be a lot slower. So just aiming to get through, and hopefully I can replicate the pace I had in race 1 and just go for it, really.
There you go, and get psyched for the run down towards turn 1. But congratulations on third place and being best of the BMWs. Who knows, if you pick your way through, you might see you again in about 20 minutes' time. So fingers crossed and congratulations.
Cheers, thank you.
From the top place BMW driver to our top 2 Audis, both of course them being teammates as well. We're going to talk to second place, a very hard fought second place for Andy Carroll. Andy, magnificent drive coming through from the third row of the grid. A great start initially to pick your way through. Was that just pressing the advantage the Audis have around the circuit, particularly riding those curves?
Yeah, and I think also I've got no ballast because I missed last week, which I'm sure
that helps.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really just a question of just trying to push as much as I can. And yeah, I saw I was catching some of the BMs fairly quickly, but once I got to sort of Chris, it slowed down a bit. But yeah, just managed to push forward, and as Ollie said, he had that huge moment through Ascari. Yeah. Which I commend him for catching, because I was behind him when the car went, and I just assumed he was going to exit stage right, but he just got it to about 45 degrees and managed to get it back again. But obviously that compromised him then down the straight, so I was able to get up behind him. And then yeah, it was just trying to keep him behind, because as I said, the BMs are very, very strong into that first corner. They can brake much later. But yeah, managed to just keep ahead of him, and then sort of was going to go and see how close I could get to Scott, but just ran out of laps at that point.
We were saying in commentary that I'm sure Scott would have been looking in his rearview mirror cheering you on until you got past and you thought, oh Christ, he's coming after me now. But again, how great is that to get an Audi 1-2, given that obviously in some circuits the BMW saved a lot more, particularly if you saw Brands Hatch. How satisfying is it to give the Audis not just a win, but a 1-2, particularly as it is the second event of the season?
Yeah, well, I say we've got to try and make it the head-to-head, mean something. So we're going to, there's not many Audis on the grid, so we'll see if we can, maximise wherever we can, and keep pushing some of those quicker BMWs. And as Ollie said, it is pretty close in most places. So we saw last week as well. The Audis were. BMW's mixing it, so yeah, no, bodes well, I think, for the rest of the season, and yeah, it's going to be nice. Should be nice and competitive all the way through.
So race 2, then you're starting pretty much from the back of the grid, all bar with just Scott just behind you on the back row of the grid. What's your take into this first corner, given you've got just about everyone in front of you? Are you going to be attacking to try to make up a few places, or will you take the slightly more portion approach, get the first couple of chains out of the way, and then see you get on?
The way the BMs get off the line, I think I will be at the back by turn 1. I think it's Monza. You know what to expect. You just got to try and be ready to dive out the way if something happens. So. Yeah, we know we've got the pace to get through the pack. So as long as we can survive, first few corners, first lap, we should hopefully be in a good position to start making some progress.
Hopefully it's a clean run through turn 1 from the start, but nonetheless, congratulations for taking runner-up spot. A valuable second place, I'm sure, for points as well, given that you also didn't make it to Brands Hatch. So good points to get your account underway. Fingers crossed it's a clean and tidy race number 2 to see you here again soon.
Thank you. Cheers.
Go, and from one Audi driver to another, we'll quickly switch to our race 1 winner, who pretty much took it from lights to flag in this race, was Scott Bugner as well. Scott, first win for the Audi this season. Excellent work from everyone all round. We'll quickly rattle through it, because we're roughly about 2.5 minutes before the race starts. Just quickly summarise how your race was. I think once you got yourself in front, it was pretty much, well, in inverted commas, plain sailing from there, but I'm sure it wasn't as easy as it looked.
No, it's never as easy as it looks. Ollie kept me hot on my heels for a good 60% of that. I was listening to his interview. We've got strength come. I think at the minute, because we can hit the curves, our cornering slightly better, but on the brakes, that BMW is phenomenal into the first chicane and the second chicane. So it was just trying to make sure that I've got the same gap every lap to make sure that he can't get any closer. And then once he made that mistake, I was like, right, just keep it on the straight and narrow, and this should be ours.
So race 2 then, you're starting pretty much from the back. So as we've talked about the other two, are you going to simply just let the first few corners play out in front of you and then pick your way through from there? Or are you going to try and pick a few more places, get stuck in and try and make a few more spots before you get out of that little sort of melee, if you like, for the first few corners?
My head says be calm, be patient. Once the lights go out, I just want to go for it and get as many positions as we can. And I know if Ollie and Jack and that get in front and sort of have a bit of a gap, it's going to be really hard to catch. So I think I'm going to override my head and just get stuck right in straight away, I think.
Stuff. Well, we'll let you go because you've got the race about to start short in a minute. So congratulations on the win. Fingers crossed we'll see you at least in the podium places in race 2.
Thank you.
So, race 1 podium done, and race 2 is just around the corner, around about a minute's time or so. Very quickly, Becky, we've got a basically fully reversed grid here. So, obviously, as we talked about, the cars that are more towards the back that were the quicker cars, how they've got different strategy here. Some are going to sit back a little bit, others are going to go for it. How tricky is it going to be to get out of this first few couple of corners unscathed so you can settle down for the rest of the race?
Yeah, it's going to be quite a big challenge to get through all the pack and cleanly as well. So yeah, it's whether you bide your time a bit, wait a little bit, and yeah, wait for a couple of laps to go for it, or if you want to pick off as many people as you can as lights go out. It's just weighing up your kind of your pros and cons of doing it, and yeah, if you can manage to do it cleanly and safely, then great. But it's quite a big risk some of the time, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out. But yeah, hopefully not quite as much carnage as last time.
Let's see what happens. Race 2 is lights up. It's Jamie Page and John Wilkie on the front row of the grid, and one or two cars didn't get away with all that clean. I think one of the cars that struggled away a little bit possibly was Jack Dickerson in the Audi. I think the couple of the cars in front didn't get away as quick as you would have liked to have done, and that, as I expected, the two Audis behind at the back of the field, which are our top two from race 1, just sitting back a little bit and watching it all unfold. Page turns in a lead, a big bump over the curve for Catherine Potter, and round's gone Rich Hayden. I didn't quite see exactly how he got around facing the wrong way, but he is facing in traffic as the rest of the pack makes its way through, and just waiting for the rest of the order to come through. Jamie Page is currently leading on my timing screen from Connor Potter in second place and Lee Piercy in third. And that, I think, is possibly John Wilkie that's gone off the road as well in the BMW. He's onto the grass. Into the lead of the race has gone, I think, still Jamie Page. A couple of cars have gone round. It's Catherine Potter, I think possibly John Jones. I think that looks like Jack Smith was involved in that. A lot's going on in the mix there too. I couldn't quite see exactly who's leading. I think it is still Jamie Page that leads. Connor Potter, I think he's second. Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, and then look at the rest of the orders. They come pouring through. One of the Audis is up there. I'll try and just bring my screen a little bit bigger so I can see the timing screen on the broadcast. Yeah, it's Potter from Piercy from Carroll up to fourth place. So a great start from Andy. Again, using that strategy of just keeping himself out of trouble. So if Andy can keep this pace up here, he's got Thomas Potter in 5th position, then Bugner 6th and Gibson 7th. As for Jack Smith, he's down to 9th. And he's going to try and keep himself in front of Chris Blakey this time. Through Ascari for the first time, but as we kind of anticipated, unfortunately, one or two cars being a little over-eager into the first couple of corners, and one or two skirmishes which might have possibly defined the race for one or two drivers early on, as early as this first couple of laps.
Yeah, a few unfortunate incidents there, but for Andy Carroll, he'll be pretty happy with that. Yeah, he's not leading quite yet, but he said obviously he wanted Ollie Gibson and Scott Bugner behind him, so that will be a big tick off the list. So it's just keeping ahead of them now and hopefully managing to catch up with obviously the cars ahead of him.
What will certainly help him is this what's going on here, because you've got Bugner ahead of Gibson and Blakey who are going side by side. Blakey will get the tow from the Audi in front of him. And Gibson's benefiting from that more, I think. He goes to the outside. Blakey's going to go to the inside here. Don't try it 3 wide into the first chicane. They're going to go for it. And Blakey's going to get 2 for the price of 1 if he can get it stopped, which he doesn't. He skips over the chicane. He's going to have to give those places back, which he does back off and at least gives it back to... Yeah, he's given it back to all of them, I think. Bugner and to Gibson. Can he slot in front of Jack Smith? That was a bit too much to ask, I think. Smith got a better exit through the corner, and Blakey has no choice but to let him through as well, purely on momentum. I commend what he was trying to do there, but didn't quite make it work. Meanwhile, for second, that is Catherine Potter letting not letting Andy Carroll through. It's Carroll making the move on Potter to get up to second place. So now with the clear air, picking his way through all that drama initially in the early couple of laps, Becky, you can see that he's wasting no time in passing the cars he needs to and chasing off after Page at the front of the field, who has pulled out quite a gap already of about 2 or 3 seconds. But we know how quick the Audi is, so I'm sure that Carroll will waste no time here to close that gap back down in the next few laps.
Yeah, I don't think Jamie Page was wanting to hang around too much then once he got out of the way of all what was happening behind him. It was, foot down, let's go, let's get as much distance as we can whilst everybody else is trying to sort out their order and where they are and untangle themselves. So, definitely the best thing to do, try to get out of it as soon as you can and make a good gap. So then hopefully you avoid any more sort of carnage or anything. But as you say, Andy's probably going to be closing in on them soon, but hopefully it will be clean racing, no sort of tangles, and be some good overtakes hopefully coming up.
Making good overtakes, but a couple just happening here as you were talking there. Jack Smith has moved himself up to 6th position, and also Chris Blakey's followed his way through as well. So he's now put Oliver Gibson down to 8th. And there's a battle going on behind them as well between Rich Hayden and Kenny Press and one of the other Audis in the mix. This is between them for 9th position. Press with a slightly, perceptively better run. He looks to the inside now as Hayden tries to take the racing line. It's side by side between Blakey and Gibson. This will be Gibson trying to fight back and take his place again. He turns in. They're going to get away with it unscathed. They have done just about, and Gibson tries to get the undercut on the exit. Blakey's tidy enough over the curbs to hold the place. So despite Gibson's best efforts there through the first chicane, hasn't quite managed to pull the move off. He's now going to try and attack again through Curva Grande back towards the Rosier to try and make that move stick into the second chicane. As we see there, that is... Thomas Potter's got up to 3rd as well, so he's been picking his way through some of the incidents. He's finished race 1 in, I think it was 6th or 7th place, so he too has moved his way through without too many dramas. There's Scott Bugner, race 1 winner. He's chasing after Potter, but we know how quick Thomas is, so I'm suspecting here, Becky, that now that Thomas is not only in a podium place already early in this race, but given that he has got track position, and we know how quick he was in qualifying, he was only beaten just by Scott Bugner in qualifying by a few hundredths of a second. I suspect here that Thomas, one, has got the pace to stay in 2nd place, in 3rd place, and chase after the 2nd place man, his teammate Andy Cowan, as the leading of those Audis, as we see Gibson again looking down the outside of Blakey to no avail. But I think also as well the fact that if Bugner does catch him, Potter won't just roll over and let him have the place.
Yeah, it'll be probably another close one where hopefully Thomas can keep his eyes forward, keep focused on where he's going. Just setting basic quality laps, that's all he's got to think in his head. It's another quality lap, keep it consistent, keep it clean, don't ride too many curves, don't rely too much to cause yourself to lose a bit of traction and spin, because then with how close everybody is, you're going to drop quite a few places even if you make a slight mistake.
Real battles going on here between the BMWs whilst that was happening. You see that Catherine Potter and Jack Smith are going at it for position. That's going to be for 5th place, and I think that Jack's going to have the inside line to beat Potter down towards the first corner. He just moves across back onto the racing line and takes the place before he even hits the brakes. As for Blakey, he's a little late into the corner, but somehow gets it anchored up. I think these two are going to go back and forth the rest of this race because they're very close together and very evenly matched, it seems, in terms of pace. They've got a good pace advantage over Kenny Press and the last of those Audis in the field. But no, he's not the last in the Audis because John Dickinson's a couple of paces back, further back down the order. In fact, it might be Connor Potter, in fact, actually. Forgive me, not Catherine. Apologies for that. Is it Connor Potter? Yes, it is. So Connor Potter, forgive me. Catherine is down in 11th place at the moment, but still just hovering outside the top 10 as Blakey again messes up the chicane. Here comes Gibson back to the inside. These two are not going to be finished just yet. Down towards the first Lesmo, turning in through the right-hander, and Gibson has the place just about. Blakey does not want to give this one up that easy, does he? He looks to the outside again to Lesmo too. They're wheel to wheel, door to door, and Gibson gets through. But I feel as though, Becky, this battle might just rage all the way to the checkered flag. But the thing is, as I've said many times in commentary, the harder these two fight each other, the easier it is for the cars in front to break away, and of course Kenny Press to get involved and make it a 3-car fight for position.
Yeah, you get a little bit wrapped up in that bubble of who you're battling, and maybe lose touch of the people in front, and then don't realise there's people coming behind as well. So it's knowing when to attack, when to defend. So it's going to be a very challenging race probably here on out for Gibson and Blakey, of knowing when to kind of give it up a little bit and then go again when they can make a move like Blakely's going for now.
He's going at it again through Parabolica. They're side by side again, and Kenny Press is we're going to get the popcorn out at this stage, watching these two go at it back and forth. He might just join in if he gets an opportunity. Wheeled side by side again. They run level down the pit straight. They're trying to catch up to who's that in front of them? That's Connor Potter in 6th position. And here comes Kenny Press in the Audi, who's got the draft. Can he surprise both of them and pick up at least one place? They head down towards the Resifilio again, side by side. They're closing in on Connor Potter. Gibson has the outside line and turns his way in to hold on to 7th position. And Blakey in 8th. The better rear-wheel drive traction off the corner gives the two BMWs a slight punch off the first chicane, but Kenny Press is there, and he knows if anything happens between these two, he is in the pound seats to benefit from it. Here comes Blakey, back to the outside again. When he put himself level in the side draft, he's trying to put himself alongside. He has track position for the inside line for the next corner, which is the first part of the chicane, and the left-hander. Gibson stands his ground on the outside line, bumps over the curb. Blakey goes round the outside with better traction, and here comes Press to the outside to try and take another place and demote Gibson 2 places in one corner. Through the first Lesmo, Gibson defends it. Press tries to come back at him, but has no answer. Proper back and forth stuff, and this is only, I say only, for 7th place.
Yeah, and we're already a few minutes into the race as well. We've got another just under 11 minutes of this back and forth, and yeah, just biding your time. And like you say, with Kenny just waiting in the background, just hopefully waiting to pick up a couple of places. All it takes is for these two to get a little bit too close, force them both to kind of have a little bit of an off, and he can fly on through.
Nose to tail then for 7th, 8th and 9th. They head out of the Ascari chicane, a little wide over the curb there for Gibson. But a slightly better exit for Gibson, in fact, because looks like Breaker was a little wayward. He comes back in the slipstream. Which way is he going? Inside down towards Parabolica. Where have we seen this before? It's wheel to wheel down towards the braking zone, and also there as well as that. That's Connor Potter in the mix as well. They're all going past him. 4th position, I should remind you. So whilst Blakey is trying to defend from Gibson for 7th place, he's trying to take 6th from Connor Potter. Now the cars behind him are going to go 3 abreast for 7th down the pit straight. Wheel to wheel to wheel. It's 2 BMWs and an Audi. Potter tries to edge Big Gibson to the outside line. Press got the inside line here and could pass both of them if he's got better track position and the inside line. They're still 3 abreast down towards the first chicane. Last of the late breakers, and Press sees them all off. Holds back down into what's now 7th place, down through the gears. Potter tries to hold back Gibson. Holds him up a little bit, but he's doing that by defending his position, not by anything that he shouldn't be doing. Meanwhile, for the lead, down the outside and into the place goes, I think, if you can get it stopped, Andy Carroll. Yes, so that's Andy Carroll into the lead. Page is fighting back for 2nd. So Page's not done with this here, and this is a bit surprising for Andy, thinking, you're not really one of my regular championship contenders, so how you're coming back at me, I'm quite surprised. But Page is giving good as he gets here, trying to keep with him. There's so many battles going on back and forth. I think we should have all the races as reverse grid races, don't you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. They definitely spice things up a little bit. I don't think there's been many times you can say you've seen 3 cars go into the first corner around Monza, but we've almost seen it a couple of times already in this race. So it's great to watch them with the close racing and yeah, being quite brave on some of the moves as well.
Yeah, I was commentating Euro Cup 3 and Boss GP, which is like old Formula 3000 and GP2 cars and even F1 cars, which weren't there that weekend, which is remotely, but it was at racing at Monza. Even they weren't going 3 wide, but this lot are. We see Gibson here finally making the move and holding station on Connor Potter. The time he's lost to the 2 cars in front is pretty critical, so he's going to have to work hard getting himself back up the order. Meanwhile, this is the fight for 3rd going on between Thomas Potter, another Potters in the field, 3 Potters in the race, Thomas, Connor and Catherine. And it's Thomas who's the best of them, currently in 3rd place. He has got the race one where Scott Bugner trying to chase him down. 8.25 minutes to go in this race, and Bugner does have the pace we know to beat the BMWs after winning race 1 and also taking pole by about roughly a couple of hundredths of a second. So it's no stranger to be running at the front here for Scott as they turn out through the first chicane. I think they are just known as first chicane and 2nd chicane, but I've always known them as the Resifilio and the Rogier chicane because of how they've been known historically. Through Curva Grande, long arcing flat out right hander. There is Connor Potter still trying to chase after Oliver Gibson in 9th place, chasing after Gibson in P8, and also in front of them Kenny Press and Chris Blakey have just spread out a little bit. Kenny is trying to go after Chris here, but Chris is languishing. I say languishing. He's doing a solid job in 6th. Now we see here there's Thomas Potter defending from Scott Bugner, so a slightly shaky run out of the 2nd chicane has given Bugner, the incentive he needs, darts his way this way and that, but Bugner's got the car planted in the middle of the road on the racing line, effectively putting his car in all the wrong places and all the right times, Becky, but holding station for the moment.
Yeah, see if Scott fancies trying to get him through the chicanes. Like I say, a bit more ability to be able to ride those curves, maybe getting past, but it's some good battling going on. And I just have to say, what great advice of Tom's mum of saying again, yeah, go get your laps in, and then you don't have to do any chores. I think she's had some quite good words of wisdom to him of again saying in the previous race series of yeah, treat it like a job. And yeah, that should be your mindset for it. As we're getting a bit.
Oh!
No.
Oh, that was Thomas Potter getting tapped a bit by Scott Bugner. I think it was just two cars going for the same piece of tarmac in a row. But unfortunately, that has come off worse for Thomas Potter, and he will have to recover and quickly get himself back going again. Whilst that's been happening, look who's benefited from that. It's our old friend Jack Smith. He powers his way down the pit straight. Not only has he now passed Potter to get up into what is now 4th place, he's now about to take 3rd, it seems, from Bugner. Unless the Audi's better under brakes, which we know I think possibly might not be the case. We've heard that he's not that better. Let's back up the inside. There's possibly a little bit of contact, a little skirmish between the two. And Bugner was desperate not to let that place go. He gets a slightly better run now off of the rest of the chicane. Will put himself level through the Roger. We've seen this before between BMW and Audi. On the wide arcing Curva Grande, that slightly wider route appears to be the quicker line ever so slightly for Bugner. He'll have track position. Smith will have to give him the room down towards the Roger chicane. He breaks that a little bit later, which, given how we've heard from the Audi drivers that the BMWs are much more superior on the brakes, is quite surprising. But I think that was really down to the fact that Smith had no choice from that much, Becky. Bugner was to his inside, he had to let him go, and he's got still enough time to try and chase after him. And Potter's not done either. He's still back in 5th position. Knowing how good his pace is, it might not be long before he catches up to these two and makes it a 3-car fight for the final podium place.
Yeah, he was quick to recover from that incident, and so he's now pushing forward, trying to catch back up and get his positions back, which will, I'm sure, add a bit more fire to his belly, and yeah, make sure he keeps his foot in it.
Trying to keep his foot in it through the Ascara chicane. They go. Still, the fight goes on for 3rd. Of course, the harder these two fight, of course, it'll be easier for Thomas Potter to start closing back up again. I have to say kudos to Page in 2nd place. He hasn't let Andy Carroll get away that much, and that BMW is looking to be best of the BMWs, and he was languishing a bit further back down the order, but Page doing a grand job. Peak there from Jack Smith as he turned his way to go through. A little oversteer moment, I think, there from Bugner, but he's held the place through Parabolica onto the pit straight with around about 4.5 minutes to go. We come onto the pit straight once again. And as they make their way down towards the chicane again, it's going to be inside line and defensive move here for this is that's Potter no position with Adam Smith as they turn their way out through the first chicane, side by side again. Back to 3rd place, and Smith's not going to give it up this easy. This is roles reverse, in fact, on this one up here, because you can see that it was Bugner who was on the inside line the first time. Now it's him on the outside. In fact, they have switched places on the road. They just about touch wing mirrors. Bugner a little deep into the chicane, but he holds the place, and now he comes on the exit. Smith will get a slightly better run. Bugner has to go defensive to the inside towards the first part of Malesmos, turns in. You know that you can get the switch back here if you're tight enough, but it's a good tight line all the way through the first part. Smith is still pressing that issue. He wants the outside line for the second part. You can get the switch back here. It might suit him on a long run down curve at Seraglio towards Ascari. Now we go on board with the BMW. He's locked that BMW front bumper practically right under the rear wing of the Audi as they come back towards the Ascari chicane. This could be an imminent move for 3rd, Becky.
Yeah, very close. Hopefully manages to keep it neat and tidy through this couple of corners. We come up coming up to the last corner, and we've got Thomas closing in as well. As you can see, you've got Jack going side to side, just making sure he's definitely seen there.
I think he's definitely seen him now. They're still wheel to wheel, literally kissing wing mirrors down towards Parabolica. Smith has got the line, but look at Thomas Potter right behind him. He's not done with this fight either, I'm sure. He wants these two to keep on battling, which I'm sure they will do, because a good run here for Scott Bugner puts him right in the slipstream of Smith. Now we go on board with the Audi. He's in top gear. Where's he going? Outside, down towards the first chicane. He's in the slipstream, down the pit straight. He'll put himself just about in front. Where is Potter? You look in his rearview mirror, the little speck there in the middle of the mirror, there was Thomas Potter. They're still wheel to wheel on the brakes. Smith goes a little later. Can he get it anchored up? The answer is yes. Good move from Bugner to get a good exit here, and that run on the inside to take third place back hasn't really compromised Smith too much. Although, as I say that, again, in the toe, here comes the Audi. We've seen this before. He goes to the inside this time. Now, bear in mind, this puts him on the outside for the second part of the chicane, but you can go down the outside unless Bugner does switch immediately to the other side of the road. Wheel to wheel, down towards the chicane. They rub paddles again, and down towards the first part of the second chicane. It's still Smith in front, but look at the time they're hemorrhaging to Thomas Potter behind. He's right back in the mix here, Becky. This is going to be a 3-car fight on the last lap as they come up towards it. When the leader, Andy Carroll, hits the stripe, these two are going to go at it all the way to the checkered flag, and Smith goes right to the edge of the road, tries to defend the line, forces Andy Carroll to back out of it slightly, but stays right on his bumper, and here comes Thomas Potter.
Yeah, now a three-way race for the final podium step, which will, I'm sure, get very exciting with just over a minute to go, as we've got Bugner going for the move now, and I reckon every time they make that move, it's almost like, great, I've done it, and then straight away, it seems to be next corner, they've swapped again.
This is the three-way fight for third, and Potter's firmly back in it here. He would love a podium after he missed out on it from starting on the front row of the grid. It is wheel-to-wheel again. This time Smith has chosen the outside line for Parabolica, but look at the toe that Potter's getting from both of them. He's now sidling up to the back of Jack Smith's car. Bugner goes a little too deep. They touch in the rear again. Now wide goes Bugner, and here comes Potter on the inside line to make it 3 abreast exiting Parabolica. This is going to be side by side in the side draft down towards the final chicane. Leader Andy Carroll has started the last lap of the race. He's 2.3 seconds in front of Page, but this is the fight for third we're watching here between them. It's Bugner in orange and silver. The yellow car is Jack Smith. In white and blue is Thomas Potter. They are 3 abreast into the chicane. This will never work as they come under brakes. And who wins the duel into the apex of the first part? It's going to be Smith, and Potter gets edged out wide by Bugner. He holds on to the place for the moment and sits back in third place, but he'll come back at it once again. We said this is going to be a possibly barnstorming finish here. Carroll and Page are completely oblivious to this. This is the battle of the race, and it's who knows who's going to take third place by the time it gets to the checkered flag.
Yeah, it's been great between these three now, the last couple of laps. And yeah, battling each other for this last podium spot. Yeah, you can't really call it at the moment. It's even when you think, oh yeah, I'm ahead of everybody. All it takes is just somebody to get that better exit on that corner, and they'll soon get past you. So it's making sure keep it as smooth as you can. Only a few more corners to go, and yeah, just make sure your nose is just slightly ahead when you get to that line.
Unless I'm going to eat my words a second, it looks as though, visibly, the battle's kind of cooled off a little bit after that. Potter was a little wayward on the exit, the second chicane, bit of a twitch of oversteer, but he sat back down to what might be a resided 5th place, unless Scott Bugner's got anything left through this Ascari chicane here, just cutting the curb as much as he can down towards the final corner. But out in front, a few seconds ahead, we'll focus on the battle for third back in a moment, because I'm certain we're going to see our race winner come through the final couple of the corners. It was his teammate Scott Bugner took the victory in race 1. It's now going to be a double car bug racing victory here at Monza in VRRC World Touring Cars, because Andy Carroll from the back of the grid comes through to take an excellent victory, his first of the season in the Audi. In second place is going to be second place, an excellent drive equally for Page in second place, and after that 3-car fight for third, it will be Jack Smith, the man who led the championship coming into the evening, who will pick that up after an excellent 3-way scrap in the final stages between himself, Scott Bugner in 4th, and Thomas Potter in 5th. It's then Tris Blakey 6th, Gibson 7th, who'll be ruining his mistakes previously. 8th for Kelly Press, 9th for John Jones, and it's going to be a top 10, in fact, also for Catherine Potter as well. Looks like I was going to say all the Potters are in the top 10, but Connor Potter is outside of the top 10, back down in 12th. So whatever happened to him, unfortunately, sees him out of the top 10. 11th for John Dickerson, and then 12th for Connor Potter, and 13th for John Wilkie as well. And Rich Hayden, sadly, was the one driver that we lost, as well as Leah Piercy. So 2 of the BMWs. And that was after Rich had the spin. Whether there was a help or not, we don't know. We didn't see it on the camera, but whatever happened, it was a rotation for Rich Hayden at the first chicane at the start of the race. There, I think he might have been a little bit on the back foot for the remainder of the race until he had to pull out, sadly. Here comes John Wilkie. He makes his way down towards the Parabolica for the last time. And he will come through in 13th place. So confirmation then, a victory for Andy Carroll. Second place for Page in P2. I want to say it's Jonathan Page, if I'm getting my names correct. Jamie Page in second place. Excellent driver, him as well. He was one of the contenders, I think, I'm certain, for driver of the event, but I think we've made our decision for that one as well. And it's second place for Jamie Page, third for Jack Smith after that fantastic three-way fight. As sees him take the final podium spot for Scott Bugner in fourth and Thomas Potter in fifth position. And it was Chris Blakey sixth, Oliver Gibson seventh, Kenny Press eighth, John Jones in ninth, and it's 10th place for Catherine Potter. She'll be delighted with that result to get a top 10 finish. I think we're going to step away briefly for just a moment when we have another one of our sponsor adverts come in. Hopefully when we've done that, we'll be joined by our top 3 in race number 2. We can see what they thought of that after a action-packed second race at Monza, which saw another victory for Audi, and they're certainly going to take that advantage, I'm sure, all the way to the next rounds at Surfers Paradise in Australia. So stay tuned. We're going to grab our top 3, and we'll be back with them shortly in a moment's time to have a chat with them after race 2 is complete here at Monza for VRRC World Touring Cars. Back in 2. Oh, what a second race that was. I think it proves that the concept of reverse grid races certainly do their job, because that was quite an action-packed encounter for basically the entire 20 minutes, and 3, I'm sure, very happy and slightly relieved podium finishes, I'm sure, which we'll go through in reverse order. I'm glad we're going in reverse order because we get to see effectively the battle, I think, not just of the race, but of the event, but of the season so far for that scrap for third place. And in the end, is a familiar sight who does take that final podium spot. He is the man who led the championship coming into tonight, and here's Jack Smith in third place in the BMW. Jack, well, if you've got any breath left or any superlatives left to describe it, that was an incredible battle in the closing stages between you and Scott, and eventually Thomas at one point as well. Just talk us through it in terms of how that was from start to finish, because from where we were sitting, both me and Becky, that was genuinely one of the best battles we've seen literally so far this season. And we've only had 2 events, granted, but it was an incredible fight between you 3 that ended up in your favour.
Yeah, and I was trying so hard to get past Scott, and obviously he's got a front wheel drive, so he can power out of corners a lot faster. And I noticed that when we were battling, he sort of got alongside me so quick, so I had to think of different ways that I could possibly get past him. And yeah, on the brakes I was way better, so I tried to use that to my advantage. And yeah, it was just back and forth. It was just a way of sort of tactically setting myself up so that I'd be in front of him at the line, because I knew we'd just be back and forth that entire time. And it was just a case of trying not to slow us down too much, because I know we had to go back and forth the entire time, and Thomas was going to catch us. So I just need to make sure that when Thomas caught onto the back of us, that I could keep it in front of him, and then him and Scott could battle. And that's exactly what happened, and I was well happy. So yeah, coming away with P3 there felt like a championship to me. There, it was unreal. It was one of the best races I think I've had in this community. So yeah, props to Scott. It was one of the best battles I've ever had in my life. And I think yeah, Scott really enjoyed it as well. I had a brief word with him after, and he was chuffed. So yeah, it was one hell of a battle.
And of course, you had to kind of, if you're battling, you had to really fight your way through with the first part of that race, particularly with the kind of couple of skirmishes that happened in the first few corners on that opening lap or two. But once you managed to get yourself clear, was it satisfying to at least start to pick your way through a couple of the cars and get yourself to that point where you were fighting for a podium finish?
Yeah, I mean, I could have been fighting for the win, I think, here, because at the start I got caught up with an incident, put me on the gravel, and I think I lost like 5-6 places. So, yeah, lost a load of time. I think I could have been in the battle for the win at the end there. But yeah, it's a blessing in disguise, really. Even though I got P3, I feel like I've earned this like a lot more than what I would have if I had won the race. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of championship, it's not great, but it's yeah, it was really good as a battle on the track. So. Yeah, I mean, picking my way through the field, it was okay. Got a few, you know, I got behind Connor Potter, who was trying to break the toe, which is funny, and then yeah, trying to get past him, and I think I outbroke him in the end on the straight. But yeah, no, I can't really remember picking my way through. I think it just sort of got past. I don't really know what happened, and I saw Scott, and Scott battled with Thomas, and then yeah, that's where it all kicked off, really.
A bit of a blur in that first part of the race. It all came alive in that second part by the sounds of it. Obviously, regardless of championship or not, of course, now you go into the next round at Surface Paradise. Street circuit, obviously, going to be a very different animal compared to what we see with Monza with Brands Hatch. How do you anticipate tackling that circuit? Because that is, at least in my opinion, it's one of the proper old school street circuits and one of the best I think it's ever been. So how do you see that event playing out with walls so close, with turns so tight and narrow? Is it going to be another race like with maybe the Audis that enjoy the slower corners off the turn, or do you think that the rear-wheel drive traction of the BMW is going to come through at a circuit like Surface Paradise, where it has so many tight corners that you can benefit from the wheels, from the grip that you get from the rear tyres?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Surface Paradise is predominantly like a V8 supercar track, isn't it? So the rear-wheel drives there seem to be okay. You just need to hope that the BM will be a little bit more well-behaved at that track, because here it was a bit of a nightmare, and the added ballast was a bit of a shock to the system. It seems to affect this car more than any other car we've had in VRRC before. So it's yeah, it's a bit sketchy. I know the Audi takes curves very, very well, so yeah, I'll have to keep my eye out. And yeah, I've always been one to like these obscure circuits. I tend to be really good at Bathurst and circuits like that where there's tight walls and stuff like that. So I'm hoping I'm probably going to have to do some laps after this interview. So yeah, we'll see where we stack up. But yeah, I'll certainly try my best, and hopefully we can have more battles like we had in race 2 here today. But yeah.
Just keep all 4 wheels on the deck, because I've seen many slow-mo shots of V8 supercars and 2 wheels through those chicanes on the back of the circuit as well. So just be careful you don't put the car on 2 wheels too many times. But nonetheless, an excellent third place that makes up for some of the positions that you had in race number 1. So these are good solid points, and I've always said it's the days that you don't win races that can win your championship. So solid points, and fingers crossed you can come back and get back to the top step next time at Surface Paradise. But until then, well done for the results that you got.
Yeah, cheers, Scott. Just quick shout out to everyone watching at the Hop Cabin and my girlfriend as well, and Dave at DK Power and all the guys at Simon Ford Motor Company as well. Really helped me put together this car, and yeah, the lads out at the Hop Cabin are really appreciative of their logo on the side of the car. So yeah, it's good to know that they're watching.
Good job, congratulations, well done.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So, from someone that we've spoken to quite a lot in VRRC podium circles, to at least, for me at least, someone I've not spoken to yet before, I'm sure slightly pleasantly surprised at second place, but on merit given the pace that he had from the front of the grid, Jamie Page. So all I can say first of all, Jamie, is welcome to the podium. That must have been a result that you desperately wanted, but at the same time must have been slightly surprised to get, given the way you were in race 1.
Yeah, unfortunately, Scott, I think you might be waiting a little bit longer to speak to Jamie. Doesn't have a microphone. Not that he doesn't want to talk to you, I've been assured.
No, it's well, I'm surprised if we didn't, because I talk enough anyway. So, but anyway, I think we'll have to gloss over talking to Jamie, which is a shame, because I wanted to hear from Jamie how he got in second place. But a good effort from Jamie anyway to get himself a really strong podium, given he was a bit further back in race 1. So, if you can hear us on the broadcast at least, congratulations for the second place, and fingers crossed that you can get some similar results going forward to Surface Paradise. But a good effort nonetheless for Jamie to get himself second, particularly benefiting. He was the biggest benefactor, I think, from that reverse grid race. So well done to him. We'll swiftly move on to the man who picked himself up and charged his way through to get second place in race 1, and did it again from the back of the field, keeping his nose clean and picking his way through everything that happened on the opening couple of laps. And that's Andy Carroll, who I have to say, really impressed with tonight, not only with the drive in race 1 to get to second place, but particularly keeping out of all the trouble that happened in the first couple of corners. And by the time you got to Lesmos, you were 4th. So just first of all, I have to kind of ask the question, if you know the answer, how on earth did you do that? Because that was incredible.
I think a lot of it was luck. came through the turn 1 chicane, and there were cars all in front of me, so I just yanked the wheel to the left and managed to avoid that. And then I think in the run out of turn 1, I think there was some contact around me and I saw a car fly off. I think it just missed taking me out as well. And then I think coming into the second chicane, I think someone lost it. And again, it's just a question of yanking the wheel to avoid that as well. And yeah, at that point I was thinking, oh yeah, this is looking quite good already. So then it was just a question of getting my head down, try to be a bit patient, not do anything silly, and then pick them off one by one. And then yeah, man, it took a few laps to catch Jamie, but yeah, got there, and then yeah, kind of from there I just kind of keep my eye on the timing screen, seeing who was in yeah, third, fourth, fifth. I thought Tom, yeah, first few laps I thought Tom was going to come for me. He was quicker, but then I think he had a bit of a ran wide out of the second Lesmo and sort of fell back into Scott's position then. So I think they held each other up battling, and then yeah, I could kind of see the relative timing between Scott and Jack. So I knew there was a hell of a battle going on there, just from the fact that it's lap after lap. It just seemed they were exactly the same delta. So yes, shame I missed that, but I'll watch it back afterwards and see how it went. But yeah, I'll just kind of trying to make sure I sort of didn't make any mistakes whilst keeping an eye on that, really, because a couple of times I almost outbraked myself as I was watching the timing screen rather than the track. But yeah, no, it was fairly straightforward after that first couple of laps, thankfully.
Then as you settle down into the rest of the race, any challenge that you really had was from Jamie giving you some attention in the closing stages of the race. Did you think you had given the pace advantage you may well have had in the Audi, did you feel as though you had it under control, or did you always have one eye looking in the mirror thinking where Jamie was? Because he wasn't too far away by the end, and I think kudos to him. He put on a pretty good performance to keep your pace given where he was in race 1.
Yeah, it took a while to catch him, and then when I got past, I certainly didn't pull away dramatically. Yeah, I wasn't pushing, because I was just trying to sort of be patient, not make any silly mistakes, and sort of give up the lead. But yeah, I was kind of expecting the gap to grow a bit, but it kind of sat there about 1.5 seconds for a while. So yeah, I had to be on my toes a little bit, because yeah, he was keeping up quite well.
So with 2 wins now for the Audis going into the next round, obviously the Audis have shown their pace on one of the circuits that appear to be quite strong. Next up comes Surfers Paradise, another different animal altogether. Street circuit, narrow walls, very tight turns, slow corners. It's very much a switchback, kind of back and forth circuit. How do you anticipate the Audis performing at that circuit, given that they've had the advantage here over the curves, but there are some quite large curves that you can launch the cars over in the Audis. But how do you think they're going to settle, and how do you think they're going to perform at a circuit like that, given it is quite different to places like Brands Hatch and Monza?
Yeah, honestly, I hopefully they'll do quite well. As Jack was saying, they pick up out the corners very well. But it's quite, from what I've seen of it, it can be quite quick and flowing. But I guess that depends how you take those curbs. So yeah, I've absolutely no idea what to expect. I'm going to have a bit of ballast, I guess, as well to carry, so that might make a difference. But yeah, I've never raced there before, never driven the track, so got a bit of brushing up on it to do over the next few days. So yeah, have no expectations, which is probably not a bad thing. But yeah, so hopefully we can it will play to our strengths again a little bit. But yeah, as we've seen at both tracks so far, there's not a huge amount in it, and I don't expect it to be any different at Surfers as well.
Well, we'll find out in about a week's time to see how the Audis perform. But until then, at least, an excellent job tonight, getting a second place and win. So very hard fought as well. So congratulations, and we'll see you get on in Australia next week. But until then, enjoy it, and we'll see you get on.
Thanks, Scott. Cheers.
Alrighty, that wraps up our racing action for tonight at Monza. 2 events down, 6 more still to go. And victories now for BMWs and Audis. And as we mentioned, now we go all the way from the fast, high-speed straights and tight chicanes of Monza. Now we go to a very different track all the way on the other side of the world. We're heading off to Down Under, we're heading off to Australia, and to here, the streets of the Gold Coast and surface paradise in Australia. I love this circuit as a street circuit itself. This is not the shortened one that they use, that they neutered a bit for V8 Supercars. This is the proper old school full length one that they used for V8 Supercars and for IndyCar as well, all the way back in the 90s up to the early 2000s as well. I'm really looking forward to this as well. Becky, final thoughts? 2 victories for the Audis. Of course, we said they were going to be quite a force here at Monza. They proved that, not just over the curves, but in general pace as well. Next big challenge coming up now is Surface Paradise, completely different circuit, being a street course here. This could be another dynamic change here, whether or not it falls in BMW's favour or in Audi's favour again, if somebody else also puts in a really good performance and pops up to the top that we might not expect. This is another very different circuit, so it could possibly turn out another very different result unless the usual suspects rise to the top and get themselves to the front of the field.
Yeah, really looking forward to watching them go around the next track. It's not one I'm familiar with, so same sort of situation as Andy. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I reckon I'm going to call it now. I reckon it might suit the Audis a little bit better with some of the tighter turns, and it seems a little bit, obviously, with the walls being there, you need your car to be able to turn in, make those corners. So I'm gonna be brave and say, yeah, I reckon the Audis might have a good outing again.
I'll hold you to that. That's a bold claim. See how we get on. We haven't even hit the track yet, but it could be interesting. I definitely recommend as well for anyone watching, and also for yourself, Becky, do go and watch back some old school IndyCar if you can from the 90s or even the early 2000s when they used the full surface power out on that circuit. I don't think they've raced there for a few seasons, maybe due to just before COVID, but it is a really good old school street circuit. It's tight, it's twisty, it's in a wonderful setting, literally on the Gold Coast of Australia. Beautiful spot, particularly when it's sunny as well. And some of the races down the years there have been absolutely fantastic. And there's one sequence of chicanes where if you watch some of the cars through there, whether it's Indy cars or supercars, they curb hop. That's an understatement. They really get up on 2 wheels if they attack it quite well. So I definitely recommend anyone who's watching, do go and watch some old school Surface Paradise footage from the 90s and 2000s just to get a feel of what this circuit really is like. Our drivers will do that too, I'm sure, but behind the wheel of their cars in the sim and the practice sessions, and we'll see how they get on around about this time next week. But that's all for tonight from VRRC World Touring Cars. From myself, Scott Woodwiss, once again, thank you to Becky Aparicio for all their efforts on co-commentary as well. Thank you, of course, as well to Steve, who's been working the broadcast, to Rich and everyone at VRRC, to all the drivers. Of course, thanks to the main charity we're supporting, Race Against Dementia, for allowing us to support them and help their fantastic cause. Do go and check them out online on socials as well, and to also all of our sponsors and partners at VRRC as well. And thanks to all of you for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel as well, so you get to see all the action coming up. You'll be notified, hit the bell icon when the next broadcast goes live. Of course, you'll have next week as well. On top of that, you're going to have a double dose of action again. You're going to have mini challenge again next week, where you'll have Richard John Neal and one of his special guest commentators too. It should be myself and Becky 24 hours after that, when we get to our 3rd event of the season for the VRRC World Touring Cars. But until then, take care, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week when we go down under with touring cars at Surface Paradise. Bye for now.
The inside of coats. Barker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates.